Jake Milne, William Insulation Company.
Thank you for joining the program. Before we start off, go ahead and give us a little description of what you guys do and how you're involved in the industry out there.
Well, we're primarily, we started out as an industrial insulation company. That was 40 years ago. We've since expanded, do painting, specialty coatings, opened up an asbestos abatement division, scaffolding, the list goes on. We try to offer a turnkey option out there for all your specialty trades.
Looking at kind of what you do and how you're involved in so many different industries, and energy, of course, being one of them, you kind of got your pulse in a lot of different areas. I was just reading on the news web today that Cheyenne, Wyoming is looking at introducing some new setbacks because of some new studies coming out of Colorado. Of course, Colorado has had some pretty public setbacks, etc. I know the Wyoming's BLM land is got some new restrictions over the last year as well. You and I were talking a little bit off pre-interview about some noise setbacks type thing. Talk to me about that state of affairs with the change of things that is happening as far as from your perspective, because you've got your perspective in a lot of different areas, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, we kind of get it secondhand, all the information, if we're not being proactive ourselves and looking into these things. I had a client reach out to us a couple months back that wanted us to insulate a skid, and had to meet this new special regulation for manufactured, strangely, homes and things of that nature. But because the fabricator fell into the realm where that was required, we started looking out and talking to our vendors that are down there, and have you heard of this? And even they hadn't heard of it. And later we determined that it didn't really apply to us quite as much. But I know that the fabricators, they're having a hard time just, special permits that they're requiring now. If you're so close to certain places, housing and things of that nature, that you're held to a new standard. I think it's making it harder for these operators. It's definitely making it harder for the vendors to serve them in the way that they have in the past. And I understand what they're going for. They're looking out for the community, looking out for the environment, and in the long term, I think that's what everyone's looking for as well. And it's kind of the good guy, bad guy thing going on down there, and it's the way that it's gotten so partisan. They overlook the fact that the energy sector is putting in more effort than all of these people when it comes to taking care of the environment and being stewards to exactly that. You guys have talked a lot about flaring in the past on some of the interviews that I've listened to. When that comes to mind, it's Colorado. There is no flaring. I think that's great. And then you look at West Texas, and flaring going on everywhere. Talked to a few of the operators down there, and it's just that it's that much cheaper. I'd like to say that, and I've been saying it for years, that there is a way to make it so that there is no byproducts and that you don't have to flare that. I mean, all the way down to what is the name of that stuff? Paraffin. Paraffin. It comes out of your diesel, and I know that the operators have a heck of a time with it down hole and plugging stuff up. It'd be nice to see that we could go to take all that and use it, and so that there is no waste, there's no flaring and all that. But it takes time, it takes money, and we're not going to change these issues overnight. And it's about getting in the middle and saying, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to make everyone happy? How are we going to do this to preserve the future ahead, right? And I just think, well, all the way down to the BLM stuff. Me as a hunter, I understand what they're going for. Um, you know, we don't want to see trash out there going across the prairie. We don't want to see oil spills. We don't want to see anything like that. But at the same time, with Wyoming being so heavy into the industrial and energy sector, that it's just part of a way of life. You, I I'd rather see a derrick out there than many other things, and it again, I like to say that we're all working towards getting to there. It's just how fast are we going to get there, and what means are we going to do it? And crippling the industry is not the way to do it. I believe our governor said something along those lines. And what exactly was the new thing down in Cheyenne? I haven't heard about that yet.
500-foot setbacks. Anything involved with drilling, it's going to meet before some county or city councils down there. Yeah, just this morning, I wrote it down on my notes. I was going to bring it up to you because obviously I know you guys are pretty involved with the state of Wyoming and through proxy, Colorado and other areas, adjacent states. But it's more about the movement and more about how it's the increasing narrative against oil and gas that's now starting to impact on a legislative level. And, like one of the things we've done at the Crude Life is our slogan for 2020 is ready for anything, because it's just things are changing so fast, and the game has changed so much. And, there's an interesting dynamic happening, and I don't know if this is at the root of it or if this is just something I'm imagining, but the average person right now has such a disconnect from energy that they think that energy comes from the light switch. That it's just a switch. Light switch breaks, we'll go downstairs to the power room and do the other light switch, the breaker room. It's kind of like what happened to farmers when the grocery store replaced farmers as where the food comes from. And that's the only thing I can think of as a parallel. But I'd like to know your thoughts on that, as far as kind of how the narrative is increased and just the disconnection from the average person to energy.
Well, it's funny. I've got a couple of my cousins. My family, it's always been real close. We've all, as far as cousins and aunts and uncles, we've all been right here in the Casper area for a long time, and I've got a few of them that, it's just all bad. And one cousin in particular, it's we do not talk about anything that's going to, politics or anything of that nature, because it becomes a heated discussion, and it's not fighting. I think we do it pretty well, but just being able to try to explain to her the way that it works is she's got her mind set, and it's bad, and I've got another cousin that was kind of the same way, and then now she's starting to realize that it's involved in every aspect of her life, and I think that she's kind of fallen into the more right wing side of things. Our whole family, it's kind of spread across the board. We've got left wing, right wing, independents, and it's funny when we have those conversations at the dinner table and just hearing all the different perspectives of it. But I think that she's a prime example of what's going on out there. And then myself now having kids and seeing what they're learning, it's all the way down to the schools that they're raised up and taught these certain things where they go to school and then they bring it into their classroom, and it takes you got to be able to tell them that at home. Well, this is what's really going on, and I wish it wasn't that way. I think it's there's a guy down in Colorado, Luke Coates, Energy Strong. His son went on a debate a while back. I was reading and it all started from what his teacher was teaching him in school, and he got scolded a little in school because he stood up and said, "No, my dad is in this industry, and he's with Energy Strong, and this is what I know." Well, that didn't work out very well, and he ended up going and debating some people out in public, and I think that's awesome. It'd be nice to see that more of our parents should get our kids involved and make them understand that this is what's going on, and all the way down to electric cars. It's great. It's a great idea, but when you think about the impact of everything, it's going to take probably a coal-fired power plant to power that car, and they don't think about where does all these parts for this car come from. 90% of that car was created from energy, whether it be the chemicals that come from the industry, whether it be all the way down to the the whole thing is created from this oil and gas industry. And then you look at the batteries that they're getting, and the means of getting that stuff out of the ground, and what I'm sure you've seen a couple of the memes on Facebook or LinkedIn of, here's your average oil and gas location compared to here's the mine where your car's battery came out of, and if they could realize that that's what the impact of things are, then they might think a little differently. But we're not going to start riding bikes or anything like that, and until they can create a solar powered car that doesn't have to have all those extra things, and this is the way it's going to be. I don't think it's going anywhere, and at least not in the next couple generations, that's for sure. And it's all it takes is education. We've got to be able to make sure that these kids are being taught the right things, and make sure that the agenda is not being pushed on them while their minds are still being molded, and let them form their own opinion. That's my biggest thing. I think kids are the most honest out there, but they've got to be able to form their own opinion. Otherwise, we'll all just fall into one category, and that's not good for anyone. We want diversity.
2020, I've gone on record saying 2020 is going to be the oil and gas industry's most important year, probably in its history, from the environmental movement, from the political elections to the new regulations coming. And there's a lot of examples that I can argue that debate point on. I'd just like to know your thoughts on my statement that 2020 is going to be this big important year for the oil and gas industry. Agree, disagree, just opinion on it?
I agree. I've heard everyone, there's been a bit of a pullback lately, and everyone's saying, oh, well, everyone's waiting on the election or whatever it might be. And I keep reminding everyone, well, hold on, it's also that time of year. They're going to slow down right now, and let's wait till February. I bet they're going to start building again. I think that there's two ways that they're looking at it as far as operators. It's do we go ahead and spend the money as quickly as we can in regards to waiting for the election and seeing where that's going to go, and or do we wait and see who gets elected and then save all that capital and spend it then, and double what our construction and production thoughts are for the future. I think it is going to be very important. Look at I hate to get into the political side of things, but I like to watch both sides. And watching the Democratic debate a while back, I see Joe Biden say, "Well, I'm going to." What was the question? If it means that you're going to get rid of tens of thousands of jobs, or are you going to go with an immediate go green agenda? And he said, absolutely. The next day, he started rolling it back, and I think he realized, that's a huge base that I am just pushing away. And but in all actuality, we know that that's if they're a far left wing and they don't have the understanding of what the industry does as far as environmental awareness and research and all the money we push into these all these different organizations and just trying to learn and save for the future, then you get rid of those industries. Now all that money's gone, and their green agenda is probably gone with it, unless they're going to get big people like George Soros and others that are also pushing the agenda. Then that's the only place you're going to have the money, but you're going to lose it. I think 2020 is going to be important. I think that people are reading into it a little too much at this point. I think that end of first quarter is really going to be the telltale. If everything's still moving the same direction as it is now, then yeah, I'd agree. They're probably waiting for an election to see what's going to happen. But I think there's going to be a split. Some people are going to spend the money now, and the rest of them are going to save and wait and see.
It's very difficult to say. You can't be political because, and this is something that we were a non-political show for 3 years. We did that on purpose because it got so political out there. We wanted to have a place where that people could talk and not get political, etc. But over the last year, I've increasingly, in fact, I spoke about it in Gillette this past summer. And this past summer, it was only 2 presidential candidates. Now it's like a half a dozen or more presidential candidates trying to ban the industry. So it's impossible to not get political now because you've got presidential candidates that have made it industry by saying we're going to ban an industry. I've never seen anything like it before. We're going to ban an industry, and
yeah,
that's
crazy.
That's reckless.
Well, and then they're. It is, and that's it. And trying to stay neutral, I guess I should say, in the business place is it's difficult, especially when you have your own opinions. And I've seen it on our job sites before, where guys are working along, but they're having that conversation, and it's. I just had a conversation with a guy one time that when I was out helping on a job, and well, no, I don't like Trump. And he was a Hispanic fella, and that was his issue because of, I've got family here, and it's like, if your family's been here forever, I love it. Let's let them stay. I agree, but let's look at all the other things aside from the immigration thoughts. Do you want to lose your job? Well, no. Why would I lose my job? Well, because we lose these industries, then. I'm sorry, we're going to have to lay you off because we're going to have to start looking at different ways to make money. And there's only so many, biofuel companies and only so many breweries and General Mills plants that we can go work in, and they don't have near the work that the oil and gas gives us, or the power plants for that nature. And it was funny when he really thought about it. He changed his mind a bit. I think that the other thing, as far as a political standpoint for those that are running, is it just seems crazy to me that they say we're going to ban this, and then, well, it's kind of like the whole thing with ISIS, right? We pull out, and then ISIS moves in. Well, let's ban oil and gas. So now Russia and everyone else is going to start doubling their production, and because now we're out of the market, and there's still that need for the commodity, and someone's going to fill that void, right? And the question is who. So with the current path we're on, with the exporting and just all the innovation that's going on, especially around all the coastal areas, when gearing up for these new exports, and it's just how you could roll back all the production that you've made is beyond me. And I think it's a losing battle right there. I don't think anyone that's going to say that is really going to win. And that's why when everyone says, they're worried about whether or not Trump's going to get back in, I think it's hands down. I don't think that they're, with the current platform of the Democratic Party and who they have in there, no, I'm not worried about it. Donald Trump's going to be our president in 2020 and years to come.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up here, as we look at 2020, either what you guys have poised for next year or anything we missed, anything you want to reiterate? The floor is yours, sir.
Well, we've got a lot of plans. Looking at making a lot of changes, good changes. Looking at keeping the good things. Um, it's. I'd like to just say that as far as going into the future, I think that we all need to keep our stay buoyant and think about the. You got to consider the other people's argument. I think that there is changes that need to be made. And like I said at the beginning, there is a way for us to make this industry cleaner. Even though we are doing the best we can now, there's ways to innovate and make things better. And I think as long as everyone just stays with the safety first and environment first agenda, then I don't think there's much to worry about. As far as us, we're like I said, we're looking at making a lot of changes, expanding, trying to figure out which plays we want to be in. Because it's changing every day, and there's a lot of change going on, and it changes every day. So I think stay patient and keep your eyes on the horizon.